Hey guys, welcome to another webinar of OpenLM. I'm Sagi. I will be the host of this webinar. We'll be going over license harvesting. Now, what does that mean? That basically means that you cut idling sessions short. You got someone that got a license, but is not actually using it. And you would like to retract that license back into the license pool. So that's basically license harvesting. You can have OpenLM do that using a save and close option, using suspend resume option. Any of the options I'll go over in a moment. But you can have OpenLM do it automatically and identify who's not using the application, meaning that he has it open, but he's on a meeting, maybe he went home, what have you. So basically you can close that application gracefully. Thus, you boost license availability in the process. Now, what does it mean idling? Like if a user starts up some synchronization or a simulation, which takes up resources, it's doing something. Well, the agent component knows that it's being used or if it's idling. If it's above a certain threshold, and that means the application is being used. It's drawing resources. It's drawing up CPU, memory, it's writing and reading to the disk. So it's being used. Doesn't matter if it's a user, if it's the application itself. But let's say it drops below that threshold. Then the application, OpenLM can actually register that this application is now idling. So once it's idling for too long, you can define that you simply close that application. Now, let's talk about floating licenses. Floating licenses, we have two options for you. If you're using Autodesk, MATLAB, ArcGIS, SolidWorks, now we also added Harmony and Kingdom, or if any other FlexLM license, FlexLM-based application. So let's go over the first one. We got the save and close. If it's one of the applications I mentioned, basically OpenLM server talks to the agent application. Now, the agent has to be rolled out on the workstations, on the end user workstations where the end user application is installed. And what the agent basically does, at the request of OpenLM server, it just goes to the API, basically exposed code, where the agent simply asks the application nicely to save and close itself. Now, this happens very gracefully. It saves to the same project that the end user is using. If no project exists, it creates a new file. But let's say that it's not one of these applications. So we have another option for other types of applications which use FlexLM. So for that, we have suspend resume. What basically happens here? The same OpenLM agent can suspend the application and tell the server to tell the broker that now it can do an LM remove. Basically grab that license back into the license pool. And because the application is suspended, it will not try to request it back. Thus, when the user gets back, once wants to keep working, wants his license back, he simply clicks a button, and that's it. He gets the license that he needs. The application gets reactivated, provided that there is an available license in the pool. So how does it all look? Basically, we've got the OpenLM server, which is the central component. You've got the brokers on the license servers themselves. And you'll have the agent on the workstations. Now, you don't have to go workstation by workstation because you're probably thinking, well, I have 10,000 workstations. I'm not going to go one by one. You can, of course, roll it out using silent installation, using SCCM, using GPO. You can roll it out easily to as many machines as you want with a single click. So let's also talk about applications which are not using a floating license model. Let's say they're name licenses or just applications you would like to monitor that they're not floating or using any license manager at all. So for that, we have the Unmanaged Processes extension. So you can do basically the same thing that you've seen before, meaning monitoring the usage, monitoring idle time, and acting upon that idle time for applications which are not floating necessarily. So you get the same actual usage extension with this one. You can tell if the application is being used or not. We're going to go over soon how it does that. And it has two options. With agent procedures, it can either just kill the application outright once it's idling for too long, or just suspend the process. It can, of course, report back how much the user is using that application, if it's not using it at all. You can also run a script on the workstation. So let's say you don't want to close it at all. So basically, just run a pop up a message, send an email, whatever you need. So for this, you just need the agent. You don't need the broker because it's not a floating license server. Now, let's jump into a live system. You say I have an ArcGIS server right here. Within it, I have these 3 different licenses. Now I'm going to go to a workstation and open up ArcMap. Now, what is it going to do now? I have the OpenLM agent right here, which is tracking this process starting up. Basically goes to the tasks and says, hey, I see ArcGIS starting up, and reports that back to OpenLM server. But not only does it do that, it also goes to the performance monitor and checks for usage. Let me explain. Basically, it takes a look at processor time, user time, and data operations per second for my case ArcMap. So this is what it does. Graphs a chart. Now let's say I'm playing with it, I'm doing something, I'm working on it, or maybe I have a simulation running. You see it's spiking, it's doing something. So the agent knows, hey, we have hours, days, minutes of activity. I'm going to touch it again. I'm going to move it again. You're going to see it spike. Now, let's say I'm going to leave it quiet, either just open in the background or in the foreground. Doesn't matter. It's not drawing up any resources. Minimized, doesn't matter. It's open. It has a license. It's not drawing up any resources, you see? So let's say the agent recognizes this for a long time. Let's say 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 20 hours, whatever. Well, you can define for this session to simply stop. Nothing's using it. It's not using processing power, nothing. So you can simply kill the application, save and close, suspend and resume later, whatever you need. But in any case, you have an indication. All right. Now, basically what the agent does is get an average of minute-to-minute average. So these little spikes won't interfere because it's not going to change the average of that minute too much. Now, let's see how it's reported back in OpenLM. Lost my share screen. There we go. So back in OpenLM, in the Easy Admin, we see I open up Viewer. I'll click on My User. Now this is me using it. I'm using ArcGIS. This is my project, my group, when I started, my IP, workstation, duration. I've been talking for like 4 minutes. But out of that, I didn't touch the application for like 46 seconds. Now almost 2 minutes. And you can see it charted right here. Where I was active, I touched it, and then I stopped. And it's idle. Now I can do 2 things. Well, 3 actually. I can say, okay, I want to close this guy's application. So I just go here, close app, and in about 2 to 5 minutes, it will go out and close the application. Release the license back into the pool for other people to use. Now what the end user will get is a pop-up on his screen saying that the application was closed. In this case, will be by administration request, probably. But it doesn't have to be by the administrator. Now you see it closed my application automatically. And it tells me recently closed ArcMap at system administrator request. I can click open and it will open up with the same project that I had open. So nothing, no work lost. They can just keep working. Now, okay, sorry about that. I have to switch screens each time. Now we see the session is gone. So something else you can do besides the administrator actually going over the list, taking them one by one. Well, you might have hundreds, or it might happen when you are away or on vacation or not your working hours. Well, what can you do? Well, we have a solution for that as well. As I said, I can offer 3 things with this. 1, the administrator can just click and simply stop the application. And secondly, you can just set it up, say anybody with, I don't know, more than 10 hours of idle time, close the application, no matter what. Or you could say, wait, I don't care if they're idling most of the time. I care if they're idling while I'm having 99% usage. I need licenses. I'm about to run out. So get all those idling guys and just start releasing those licenses. That makes it so much better because then you define to close applications only when you really need it. So it won't happen much, but it will happen. Now, what this will result in, basically, people who should have gotten denied and gotten a little bit mad and tried to get the license again and again and again, well, they wouldn't get denied in this case. They will simply get a license because they'll get a license from someone who was idling, who didn't even need it. So you're redistributing the licenses correctly using OpenLM. And that's basically it for floating licenses. Now, as I said, we have two options: extension, which is save and close, or suspension, which is suspend resume. But you can also run a procedure such as a custom script. For example, the guy is idling for too long. You don't want to close his application, but you do want to send him an email. You can do that. Or you just want to pop up a message on his screen. You can do that. So for example, you can utilize a script like this and run it on his system once it's idling for too long. Okay, please close app if not using it. Or you can do something like, I don't know, send email. Get like a PowerShell script going, and then you can just get the guy's inbox filled with the message that you need. So let's go to my inbox. Let's check. There we go. Make notice. Hey, please close app. Let's go back. So you got all these options. You can close the application, you can suspend the application, you can kill the application, or you can just run a script, meaning pop up a message, send an email, what have you. Now this is for floating licenses. We can also monitor unmanaged processes. For example, I have a pzip, just an application. It doesn't have any license manager. It doesn't have a floating license manager. It doesn't have anything. But let's say we still want to monitor it. Now, if you go to license servers, then I do have it. Oh, where is it? Should have it monitored. There we go. I have it monitored right here. pzip. Now I set up that I have one license. And if I go here and open up pzip, it's going to be tracked by OpenLM. It's going to be tracked and monitored by OpenLM. Even though there's no server, there's nothing. So let's say you want to track Adobe. Well, you can do it using the agent. You know who's using it, what they're using, and so on. Now also, let's say you want to track Autodesk, AutoCAD. Lately, they moved to, well, some have a mix of floating and named, but many are moved to like 100% named licenses. So you can monitor usage by the agent. So you can know if the guy that you gave a license to, if he's actually using it or not. And if he's using it, let's say, open up the application, if he's actually doing something with the application or just has it open. So it gives you many layers of further information beyond what Autodesk can offer. But take it just as an example. All right, so I have that open. 1 second, I have to stop share again. And there we go. pzip, I have one using it. Now this is me. Using pzip, which is, and it gets all the same information: group, IP, start date, end date, duration, idle time, everything. Now, that's it. That's basically all I wanted to show you today. I don't want to overload you with information. That's license harvesting in a nutshell in OpenLM. Now, keep in mind that this encompasses a few extensions. It encompasses actual usage, which is tracking the idle time. It encompasses unmanaged processes, which is monitoring applications which are not floating licenses. And also we've gone over active agent with all its various forms. You got within the active agent, the save and close, the suspend resume, the procedures, the custom commands, all those are part of the active agent extension. Now, all of them use the same component. Component is called OpenLM agent. That's the OpenLM agent component. And just a freebie for you right now, you can also get idle time detection out of the box in OpenLM. So if you have OpenLM right now and you don't have the agent, then you can just roll out the agents and you have it right away. Now, let me explain. Basically, you can have not only the application idle time, because that requires the extension, and you want something for free. So, well, out of the box, you can get if the workstation is idling. So for example, I see that Sagi is idling on demo v4 for like 19 seconds, but Yuri is idling on demo v4 for like 5 days already. Now this comes out of the box. If you got like Citrix servers with many users using the same server, doesn't matter. OpenLM agent can differentiate. If you got many different workstations spread across the world, no problem. You can use the rollout systems to roll them out with a single click. So you can roll them out, test it out, see idle time of the machine itself, if the guy used the server or the workstation at all. See if it works for you, if it's something you need, and see maybe you want to go further and get the extensions and see if they're actually using the applications, not only the PC. All right, so now I'm going to move on to Q&A. Now I have both Q&A and chat here, which is kind of silly because they're basically the same. So you can use either QA or chat to ask any question. I see I have one already. So is there any kind of reporting for analytics of licenses, usage, availability over a period of time? Yeah. So the basic OpenLM webinar, the basic out-of-the-box OpenLM webinar goes over this in detail. Basically, you got the license usage report. Let me quickly show it to you. I'll open up another interface. One moment. to share my screen again. All right, so you're probably referring to a graph, a chart that kind of looks like this, basically charting concurrent usage and license usage and availability over a period of time. So here you see a whole month, and you see the ebbs and flows of concurrent usage. So for example, at this point, I had 62 users using this application, and I have overall 70 licenses that I purchased. Now it looks a bit better with the heat map. You can see when it was used the most, when it was used less. So right here we can basically clearly understand that during the working hours, like 9 to 5, most of the usage happens. And we can see how much, what's the utilization, what's the availability. Chat. What are the SAM tools with which OpenLM can integrate? SAM tools. So we have one, ServiceNow integration. You can get OpenLM's data onto ServiceNow and integrate it with all the SAM environment, basically. So if you go to the OpenLM website, just type in ServiceNow. You got here integration, the adapter, you can just download it. Here under integration, got a nice little video showing the interface, which comes out the other end, giving you not only current spend, like you have with other SAM in your SAM tool with other features, but also potential savings because, of course, we get utilization from OpenLM. So if you know what you purchased and how well you're using it, you know how well you're saving, basically. All right, anyone else? Any question? I'll just paste it in the chat as well, so you have the ServiceNow integration video yourselves. What's the pricing like? Well, you can go to pricing right here, get a better understanding. But basically, to put it easily, it really depends on how many vendors and users you have. Now, this is unique vendors. That means, let's say you have SolidWorks, but you have 100 servers of SolidWorks. So we just charge you for one SolidWorks, not 100. So same goes for users. It's unique users. Let's say you got a user that uses SolidWorks, it uses MATLAB, he uses a lot of things. We don't count him many times, we just count him once, and you get charged once for this user because it's the same user, the same guy. Now, let's say someone leaves the company. So after 3 months, he will not be taken into account. So it's basically who actually used applications, unique names, and unique vendors. Will a recording of this webinar be available so we can share it? I believe so. Jeff, you should ask Veronica. I'm not sure. Is it only for concurrent licenses? How to measure standalone licenses? So using the Unmanaged Processes extension, you can also measure standalone licenses. You use the OpenLM agent, which I showed, just roll it out to the workstation, and it will monitor the usage. So let's say you got an AutoCAD application, which is now standalone. Well, you can monitor it. Let's say it's Adobe, which is standalone. You can monitor it using the OpenLM agent. So you get the usage, how much time they used, if they actually use the application, and everything. Basically, everything that you got with floating licenses, you also get with the standalone. So you get both in OpenLM. It just depends on if you're using the broker, data coming from a license manager, or you're using the agent, meaning that you don't have a license manager and you just want to get the data, the usage from the end user workstation itself. So I got another one. When is the active agent used? Is it only for save and close or suspend resume? So within active agent, we have both save and close, suspend resume, agent procedures, and custom commands. All of those are a part of active agent. So the save and close, suspend, resume procedures, it just depends basically on which type of application you're talking about and how can we interact with it. Because if, for example, it's MATLAB or um, SolidWorks or Kingdom or Harmony, these are applications that offer up an API. And one method in the API is, hey, can you please save and close yourself? So we just tap into that. But many applications don't have that. Let's say NX doesn't have it. So we just do suspend, resume. We use a different method. Now I believe that recently we did added NX lately, but not sure about that. In any case, it really depends which application you're referring to. Now let's say you're referring to a standalone application. Well, we don't have any license manager to retract the license to, so we can just kill the application. If it's an Autodesk application, let's say, which offers up an API, then you can do the save and close. So, anything else? Anybody has any question? Let's see. When does the agent get counted against your total pool of agents? Only when closing, when executing an email message command, pop-up command, just a clarification, agent count is counted for 90 days after last usage. So agent, I think you mean user, unique user. Uh, when we calculate the pricing, basically if the user uses an application, if he's being monitored using an application, it doesn't matter if it's the agent is closing it, not closing it. First of all, it charged base product is charged by the user itself. So if he's using the application, let's say he's using AutoCAD, so if you'll be charged for that first. But let's say you want to activate active agent on top of that, so you'll be charged a bit extra for that closure event. Basically, you get an amount of tokens, and out of those tokens, you can basically do a few closure events or idle time monitoring events. Usually it's covering, of course, 100%. We just need to know how many to give you. It's based on usage itself. So if you're using the latest version, one of the latest versions, 5.6 or 21, you might see you have there something added called agent token, OpenLM token. That's basically if you're using one of the agent extensions, then you get an amount of tokens. These are reusable tokens. So someone gets his application closed, tokens are used. Gets his application, starts idling, some tokens are used out of the pool. And of course, when he stops idling, they are back into the pool. When his application is actually closed, it's back in the pool. All right, guys. So, any questions? Anything else? If nothing else, then I would thank you very much for joining me on this webinar. Uh, for me, it's a bit late here. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you have a great morning, evening, or night wherever you are. So have a great one. Bye.